Hello, once again, everyone. Welcome back to the loving arms of Network Special, the podcast that talks about the golden age of appointment-based television, roughly. We talk about from 1970 to 2000, but not always, as Nate will tell you. And who is this Nate I'm talking about? Why, it's my co-host. Say hi, Nate.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Zachariah Durr, and in the booth is the mysterious producer, Jeremy. Say hello, Jeremy.
Hello, Jeremy.
That's what his voice sounds like. And you may have heard somebody giving gales of laughter, well-deserved to my hysterical joke. It's only been Nate and I on this network special ship from so far. And as Jeremy says, it's vacation day for him. Every time we record, there's never any dead air. There's no mistakes to edit out. There's no long, questionable tangents for him to cut down. So we decided, why not put a little variety into the show and have a guest, a network very special guest. Mm-hmm. And this gentleman sitting across from me is Mr. Mike Wendt. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And Mike, very quickly, let me tell both Nate, who I think this is your first time meeting, Nick, and all our listeners in their homes or gyms. You don't work in the film industry in Cleveland at all, or probably in the Great Lakes area without knowing Mike. He is involved with the Cleveland Film Commission. He does a million other things that have to do with film. He knows a lot of celebrities. He knows all the filmmakers.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
We're here for dirt.
Recently I got to interview John Krasinski about Quiet Place 2, which I was actually surprised to be asked to do that because I figured they would have asked Bill Squire or Mary Santora or something like that, but they asked me to come
Instead, they got a beloved fixture of the film community here. Briefly, get into a little bit of what you do with Cleveland Film Commission.
Sure. So I do a lot of scouting for films when they're thinking about coming here to the Cleveland area. Then I show them all the different crews that they can hire, all the different locations, the different businesses they can utilize to help make their movies. So, right now we have a fairly large Netflix film in town. There's a lot of stuff I can't talk about with that particular project. Everything is shrouded in secrecy right now. I probably even wasn't supposed to say Netflix movie, but
does it rhyme with
Planger Plings?
Maybe.
Did they ditch Atlanta finally?
But yeah, I mean, part of that, that's a big part of my job is to help put out any fires that come from these different movies when they come into town. And, a lot of times it's fun. There are sometimes it's very stressful, but, I'd rather, be the guy that they put all their burdens on than somebody else, I guess.
They call you the fixer.
Ray Donovan.
How good is it for Cleveland location scouting that we don't tear anything down? So we have a lot of very old locations and then just ruins of buildings that you can shoot stuff in that we've never taken care of?
Yeah, I mean, the Westinghouse plant, I think, is the place that's been shot the most. It's off of East 55th and Cedar, and it is literally a shell of a building. It looks like a bomb was dropped in the middle of it. But so many films have shot there. I mean,
name some of them. Who are some of Hollywood's elites?
Avengers shot in there.
Nice.
Scarlett Johansson was tied to a chair. White Boy Rick, The Land, All the Right Places, and some of Cherry was actually shot there as well.
And now, of course, Stranger Things 7,
Yes.
Still the 80s, will be filming there as well.
No, Dad. I want to stay with film.
We thought you might have changed your mind about that.
No, he don't want to change his mind. We want to do a movie show called The Bill Show. It's going to be a real good show.
That's sort of how we met.
So we have you here today to talk about a little film called Bill, first shown in December 22nd of 1981. Bill came sliding down everyone's Christmas chimney. Ho, ho, ho. Bill, I'm going to read the synopsis from IMDb, as long as it's not too long. Oh, it's not. Good. This movie is based on the true story of Bill Sackter, a developmentally disabled adult who has been confined to an institution for most of his existence. The good-natured Bill finally gets to enjoy a measure of freedom after Barry Morrow, a documentary director, invites him to stay with his family. While the Morrows have plenty to teach their mentally challenged friend about life, Bill has his own brand of wisdom to impart. This film stars Dennis Quaid, very young, fresh-faced, late 20s Dennis Quaid in his first big film role, and Mickey Rooney as Bill in his 4,000th film role.
Yeah.
So one
This
reason...
was 1981, right?
1981.
Yeah. Do we know what station it aired on or anything like that?
CBS.
CBS.
The Family Network. And one reason why I invited you to come in to speak on this movie, Mike, is of course you're very knowledgeable about movies. You love movie history.
Absolutely.
But also you have a relationship in your life that I will stress does not mirror the relationship in this movie. This is not with an elderly man. But tell me a little bit about your relationship.
Yeah, so I have a good friend named Nick Baker. He has Down syndrome, and I met him when right after college. It was hard to find film work here right away, so I naturally went to the first place I could think of was a movie theater. So a lot of times, when friends come in and see you working at the movie theaters, like, oh, you made it. You made it in the film industry. But anyway, there was...
They know you don't make the movie and then run upstairs and show it, right?
Well, there's a lot of heavy layer of sarcasm there.
Oh,
so.
Okay.
But anyway, so not too long after I started there was, we had somebody came in and said, like, I'm with the work program with one of the vocational schools local to here, and you're going to have this young man start here. They told us that his mother had just passed, and he was having some kind of difficulty communicating, or was just kind of down. So they kind of partnered him with a couple of us just to kind of get him acquainted. And not too long after, he just he got very comfortable working there, and him and I just became friends. And it was one of these things where he can't drive, so I would take him to different places. We get lunch initially, and then it started to become this thing where I would take him and his girlfriend on their Valentine's Day dates or something. So that's a lot of times, like, people see on social media around Valentine's, they're looking for the fact that I'm taking him out there. But yeah, him and I, actually right before I got up here, he gave me a call because we were supposed to go to Indians game, and then he like uninvited me, and then he was just trying to see if I was available again because he lost his ride. So
so you two are on the outs now. Okay.
No, it was all just a misunderstanding. Sometimes when talking with him, like, I can be sometimes sarcastic or vague in my responses to him. So he thought I was super busy, even though I made it aware that I was available. But anyway, we've now known each other about 15 years, I would say.
And how close in age are you with him?
It's kind of like a brotherly friendship, I would say. Like, I'm about to DJ his sister's wedding. I know his family fairly decently. So yeah, I would say it's a good relationship.
How close are you with him? Like, is there a kind of a limit that you get to, or do you get pretty close and personal?
Well, it's like he calls me at least once a day, usually.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, Facebook message, which I know the times when he gets his phone taken away, he has a tendency to get involved with bots on Facebook who sometimes pose as, he thinks it's like a lady that's interested in him, even though he has a girlfriend. And sometimes they're asking for money, and, I have to always explain to him, it's like, if somebody really likes you, they don't really ask for money right away. So yeah, there's a lot of time. I mean, I know it's...
You never met me.
I know it sounds kind of weird, and sometimes I know some of my, I guess regular friends like question, it's like, you hang out with somebody who has Down syndrome, but I don't know. I just like it, I think under most circumstances, he is a pretty normal, high functioning Down syndrome person, just because, he's talking about a lot of things that we all talk about, going out, girls, stuff like that, the Indians or whatever, like he just, he loves wrestling too. So that's like one thing that I've kept the WWE network because, so he can share it with me, basically.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I also want to make it clear, it's not like I brought you in like now we have an expert to talk in third person about this. But I thought that
What's the science on this?
I wanted somebody who had sort of a relationship a little bit like in the movie, which is based on a true story. There is really a Bill Sackter, and there's a documentary that came out a couple years about the real guy. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, let's dive into Bill. There's no exclamation point. I always want to say it that way. The big flourish. Nate, do you want to start walking us down the path of Bill?
Yeah, so Bill is, and like we said, this is based on a real person. So this is just also a kind of a documentary in the way we're talking about it. And there is actually a documentary about him that you can see online as well. He was, as a child, he was kind of cast off by society, put into a mental an institution, and was there for like 40 years or something, right?
Well, hold on.
And
I'm sorry. Can we let's do the movie first and just walk through the movie, because it's going to get really, I don't know how much I can back and forth. I'm going to get myself confused with it, because I do want to talk about the documentary, but I kind of want to hold out. Yeah. I would like talk movie first. And
well,
then
I guess
we'll
I was
reality.
giving a little background on
right
him even in the thing, but I got you.
Oh, just say how we were introduced to our friend Bill.
Well, he's obsessed with this city Santa, right? That's the opening.
That is how we meet Bill, is he's staring at Santa, talking to children.
Yeah, and saying and repeating his ho ho hos. And then he falls in with this guy on the street who cons him into buying him drinks and I can't remember exactly where it goes from there. Like that's like the opening bit, but who pulls him from? Is it
the social work? So the next thing we see that Bill has been thrown in prison. He's gotten conned and beat up by a vagrant. Everybody is a real ass to Bill. The social worker is very demeaning of him. The policeman calls him a wino. It always should be said, Bill is being played by Mickey Rooney, who is wearing a bad wig. It's supposed to be a bad-looking wig.
Yeah, right.
Mickey Rooney, when I saw him in this role, I thought, wow, I can't believe Mickey Rooney was still going, even in his 80s, and he lived so long. And then I looked up, and he's like 70 in this movie. He looks like he's 100.
Yeah.
Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney famously loved the sauce, and he had a kind of an active life. So I think he may have aged a little intensely. But Bill in this movie looks like a little potato man. He's just that little Mickey Rooney head.
He looks older. He's definitely looks way older than I think the actual Bill.
Oh, yeah.
By like 20 years.
Yeah.
Does he wear like the same? It seems like he wears like the same outfit like throughout the whole film. Is that, I mean, am I wrong?
Pretty consistently. He has the same wig and little leather hat that he wears. Mike, how would you describe Mickey Rooney's performance of Bill in this movie, just to kind of set the table?
Well, I did see he did win an Emmy for it, which and I feel like he probably studied certain people. I'm guessing. I thought it's not bad. I could see where if certain people who are who were critiquing these things, like nowadays. I think maybe back then they might have been like, "Oh, this is a triumph," a very bold performance. But I think now, like in hindsight, 40 years later, I'm sure there's some people who would be like, "Ooh, it comes off a little cringy or something." But I mean, looking at it from that point of view, I think he wasn't too bad. I mean, I thought, it seemed like he put a lot of care into it.
Okay.
I mean, just in my opinion.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. Like, interesting take.
But he works at a country club at the beginning, right? Is he still at this country? Is this where it starts, at the country club?
Dennis Quaid comes in to pick up his cocktail waitress girlfriend who works at a country club.
That's right.
And Bill is in the back room washing up by himself on Christmas Eve. I want to say he's the only person who's been told to clean in the kitchen. Yeah. As his boss is also mean to Bill.
That's what Barry says in this. He says, screw that guy. Come on here and have some fun.
And Dennis Quaid is a documentary filmmaker. He meets Bill, immediately decides to make a movie about him. As I guess he's the only intellectually disabled person he's ever met or seen in his life. So he's like, "You're gold, mister." Doesn't he start immediately filming him?
It seems like it. I mean, because I know, like, we're introduced to his character and he's trying to get these different grants for something that we're not really like told what
he's making the vaguest documentary in the world.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is a slam dunk, I think is what he says. Something like, does he
say
or something like that?
Probably. Because everyone I don't know. I know the box office in the 70s or 80s used to be a little bit artier or more adult. I don't know how many Cineplexes were clamoring to see the documentary about a Bill style person. He starts immediately taking footage of Bill, bringing Bill around everywhere. Everyone gets so mad at Bill so much, even though they know Bill's deal. Like Randy Quaid. This movie would be amazing with present day Randy Quaid playing Bill. Dennis Quaid starts asking about the institution that Bill used to be in. And this obviously makes Bill very uncomfortable, and he gets up and he leaves. And every time Dennis Quaid makes Bill upset, the way he reacts is to go, "Oh, come on, Bill! Bill! Bill, come on! What's the matter, Bill?" Dennis Quaid's energy in this movie is so weirdly. I don't know if he was excited this was his first major film part. He has the most aggressive energy. Like, he sits down to dinner, he's like, "Oh, honey, oh, baby, this soup." Oh. Something about Dennis Quaid's energy always makes me think that he's lying. I don't know if it's his face, his eyes, or his kind of
that grin.
Smirk. It's that grin.
He's got that grin. Like, in preparation of this, I watched a couple of his interviews with Conan or Jimmy Kimmel over the years, and it's always like that. Like he looks like Jack Nicholson in Batman. Like that's how he looks like the whole time. And I don't.
He always plays. The only time I think he's really great as an actor is when he's playing a insincere person with a secret.
Yeah,
he's great in Traffic as a snaky lawyer who is insincere and has a secret, and he's really good in that Parent Trap remake where he plays a charming dad who has a big secret about the fact that he has another child. And then, so I guess we just kind of see all these scenes of Dennis Quaid haranguing Bill into being in his movie. This is a movie that takes its time and does a very slow scene, and then you get a scene of dialogue that seems to cover what should have been 20 minutes in the movie. You're very orally caught up with a lot of stuff that maybe we could have seen. And I don't know if that's just a budget cut or a TV movie thing where it's like, well, we don't really have the time. We have Mickey Rooney for this number of days. We have to kind of like get him in the park, get him in the apartment, and bing, bang, boom.
Did they... Was this, do you remember the runtime? Was this one like spread across a 2-hour block?
I think it was like, I watched it on YouTube, like one continuous thing. It was like 97 minutes.
97 minutes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, man. So how much was on the cutting room floor?
I don't think much. I think they seem to. It's all there on screen. The whole budget's there on the screen.
Well, you know, when you're talking about like how he goes into the filming, and it's just like, yeah, Bill brings up the fact that I do not want to go to that institution. Where does Dennis Quaid immediately take him? We're going there.
It's like he thought Bill was like doing like a don't throw me into that briar patch. He's like, oh, I'll call your bluff.
Right. He takes Bill to the institution. Well, we're going through this seemingly very quickly. It happens really quickly. This is the first 15 minutes of the movie we're barreling through. He takes Bill directly to the institution where he lived since age 7 for 44 years of his life and was then finally released and kind of made a ward to the state, I want to say. We go to this institution and Dennis Quaid talks to a doctor who took care of Bill. Bill has the vaguest symptoms in the world written down in his file. He just says mentally insufficient. And then we get a scene where we're seeing what I assume are people who are genuinely in like a care facility, right?
Yeah. It seems like they probably just piggybacked onto, you know, something like that.
Dennis Quaid is like, oh, he grew up here? This is terrible. He starts yelling at the doctor about how terrible his institution is. And then the doctor opens a door. And they have put 20 people, like, who seem to have very serious mental issues, like crammed them into a room the size of this studio, which is about the size of a medium storage closet. I felt really bad for the people they had in the scene. Yeah, I don't know. Where do you think this is? Boy, this is a real deep into the pool question. But it occurred to me while I was watching this scene. What do you think is the line for people who have maybe lesser of an awareness of consent to be in something or awareness of the surroundings and filming them for a movie like this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there were, you know, certain things maybe back then. I know it's not that long ago, but it is 40-ish, 40 years ago. There might have been more like sensitivity training that some of these filmmakers have now gone through. Like there are certain films that like recently played. There was one, like Peanut Butter Falcon, for example.
Right.
You know, that is something when they made that, like they have like all these different consultants there, all these kind of like training to work with actors of those kind of disability ilk. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about. Like, were things different back then? And I know it's not even that long ago, but
and to be clear, I'm not trying to call it this movie as like, see, they were terrible people. I think their intentions for this movie were good.
Yeah,
I'm just as a general question of now. Does that, have you ever had to work on a shoot that requires that, or was it ever a process, or did Peanut Butter Falcon shoot here at all?
No.
Okay.
No, but there was one film that I worked on that I believe we did have a mentally disabled actor, and there was a lot of things that had to be explained. It was a kind of a, like they made sure everything was explained fully. And that they were, that it was just acting. It wasn't, we're not really putting you in this situation. So I know they took a lot of care with the actor when they did it. It was only like one day, but it was, it was really kind of cool to see, because it was just one of those days that everybody was kind of on point and just very, made sure everything was inclusive and nothing was confusing.
So it's almost like describing acting as play.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I know the Farrelly brothers work extensively in their like later comedies with people, especially. What was the Johnny Knoxville Special Olympics movie? The Ringer, which won a ton of awards for working with people with mental disabilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I never saw it, but you hear the idea of the film, and I'm sure people stayed away because they just assumed it would be the most offensive movie in history. John Knoxville fakes having mental deficiency for getting in the Special Olympics so he can win a bunch of awards, and is then quickly called out by all the other competitors. Where does Bill lead us from there? I feel like we just get thrown.
So it's like I think it kind of jumps to, well, Dennis is trying to, Barry, Dennis's character, is trying to advocate on his behalf, like getting him some better care and stuff. And then there's the kind of like employment crisis he's having because he can't get the grants. And so they're having a baby and the wife's like, look, we got to pay for this baby. So he starts applying at jobs and gets a job out of the state. And so he has to leave Barry. Barry has to leave Bill.
But I think before that, he goes...
Is there much more before that?
Doesn't he go to the social worker first to get Barry, or to get Bill dentures?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes.
He was getting him health care and stuff.
Yes, but I didn't want to skip by the infamous I love chicken scene.
Oh.
I don't even one scene before that, like as she's they're kind of going through the baby store, and she sees the baby bassinet or whatever that she wants, and it's like $1,000 or something. And he's like, oh, I can't afford that. And she's like, well, damn it, like I want that. It's like, I'm sure our parents can give us one of my old ones. Like, I want the new stuff. It's like she's kind of a little bit
why did they feel the need to make the wife the villain of this piece? She wants all new stuff for the baby. Every time he wants to reach out to Bill, she is reticent about it.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it, but when we were watching those scenes, I was going, I bet the wife was not the person standing in the way in real life. Spoiler, it wasn't. But he's going to the social worker and he says, Bill needs new dentures. His teeth are rotten. She gives him a hard time about wanting to get his friend dentures. And she says, well, would you invite Bill over to your family's house for dinner?
That's right.
And then the next thing, ding dong. Okay, Bill, now you're going to meet my parents. We're meeting Dennis Quaid's parents. He has the waspiest, whitest parents in the world who live in a New England mansion. They're the Snootington family. They don't like the fact that he's a filmmaker. And apparently, Dennis Quaid has not prepped his parents, either that Bill is coming over or any background on Bill, which is not okay. Especially if you know your parents are kind of, snooty asses.
Right.
Maybe give them a heads up. So then you have this very intense scene that Mike, you texted me about. Do you want to share the magic of the I love chicken scene?
Well, yeah. So, obviously, they're all sitting around the dinner table, and at first, Bill is offered green beans, and he says how much he likes green beans, so he almost takes half a plate of that, and then when the chicken is offered to him, he grabs multiple, and the maid, I kind of blame it on the maid, because she just stands there and just lets him keep taking it. And she just kind of, even after he exits the scene in kind of a fit of rage because he gets yelled at by Barry. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh about it because it just makes me laugh. But yeah, she still stays there. I don't know if the director was just like, okay, yeah, real good. But she just keeps there with the chicken.
Yes, obviously you don't let your guest take 2 whole chickens worth of fried chicken, but she does just stand there like a statue, and looks right at the table like, huh, can you believe this? But what am I gonna do? I am the help.
Guess I'll have to make more.
Yeah. But yeah, he's touching every piece, even the ones that he's not putting on his plate. But yeah, which makes Dennis Quaid yell at him.
It's very quickly taken care of, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He goes, I'm sorry, Bill. I'm sorry, too. And then they go back and eat. And that's the last we see of the parents. A lot of last we see of the person in this movie. A lot of comings and goings, a lot of revolving doors. Yes, and then Barry decides he's going to move to a different part of Iowa, right? So he's not that far away.
Yeah, Iowa City. Well, yes, Iowa City. And how like 4 hours or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they have the baby. Dennis Quaid's giving us a lot of energy about the baby. They get a phone call. Bill has collapsed, so they go get Bill and asks Bill to come and live with them, which of course his wife has a problem with that, and then she doesn't. It's very quickly resolved.
Yeah, she's very then nice for the rest of the movie, pretty much.
Right. There's the crisis where he goes like, I think we should take Bill in to live with us. I think that's a terrible idea. There's children here. Then he goes to get Bill. Is like, hey, where's my guy? Is that Bill?
Well, one quick thing I wanted to just kind of circle back with on like the chicken scene. I guess to kind of like relate it to Nick a little bit. There have been times when I bring him in kind of social situations or stuff like that, and that kind of scene, I've seen it before. Where it's like, if there's one thing that kind of happened, like there was one time I had a couple people. I was a big fan of The Room when it played at Cedar Lee a lot, and he wanted to come with, and we all stopped at the bar before, and it was he can't really drink, so he got kind of upset about that, so he like ran off, so it was like a scenario where then I had to go console him, and like I'm sure some of my friends were just like, oh man, why did but he enjoyed the movie afterwards, but so it is kind of like that. I mean, not saying that every scenario is like that, but I kind of related to it when I saw that, like, then you kind of just have to talk him down and just then apologize basically, and then he then comes around. So I mean, certain scenes like that like kind of hit home when I saw it. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Would you say you said your friend Nick has Down syndrome, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So but for Bill's diagnosis, it was just kind of like mentally insufficient or something, is what it said?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that they're very similar in their functioning or whatever, however you describe? I always hear like high functioning or
we're going to get all listeners, we're going to get a million terms wrong on this. Like, just
so
believe we're doing our best to.
Would you say that they're similar in how they respond to things, or is your friend?
Yeah, because I would say Nick is on a very high functioning scale of things, where his girlfriend, on the other hand, is on the lower side of things. So she's communicative, but sometimes it's really hard to understand what she's saying. Sometimes she can just be very quiet, but he's always very kind of like well spoken. For somebody who has Down syndrome, I would say.
Okay.
When you go out with Nick and like you have a server at a restaurant or you're talking to people, and I'm sure that there's a moment where they kind of like realize what the dynamic is.
Yeah.
How do you see people? Obviously, I would guess the right thing to do is just be yourself and be nice, which is a easy thing to say, and not everybody is capable of it or knows the best way to do that. What is the good way and bad way that you have seen people interact?
The good way is kind of like you said, just to kind of act like things are normal. I think sometimes the bad way is to like the high pitch, like, oh, hey there, buddy. Oh, good to see you.
Suddenly you're talking to a dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Where, I think he kind of gets a kick out of it when people do that. Like, I think he's aware, where he's like, oh God, who is that? But yeah, no, I think just kind of, treating, somebody how you would want to be treated, I would say, makes it good.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it really, do you feel like you're dealing more with, in situations where it gets difficult, are you dealing more with people's uncomfortability in the situation versus people being actively and aggressively mean or cruel.
Yeah, I mean, because there are times, say like, if we go to a dinner or something, and they're trying to figure out like, who's paying the bill kind of thing. So like usually they're trying to slide it to me, and and that's where he goes, hey, that's for me, So I think it's just sometimes, yeah, there is uncomfortability sometimes. Like they're like, is this person going to be able to, to pay their bill and tip me and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I could see sometimes where that, and I understand for people who don't deal with somebody like that on a regular basis, they might think that there's going to be all these like faux pas or something like that. But no, I mean, I think, a lot of times, like I do have to kind of keep him, in line with certain things, but for the most part, it's, just, he's really good at, just functioning properly.
I guess when you're a kid and you're getting the very early lessons of watching specials or reading books about how you interact with people, the lesson is normally don't be cruel. Don't make fun of these people, which of course, when you're talking to a child, maybe that is the first thing you need to tell them. Those kind of big lesson books don't exist for adults. And I feel like the don't condescend without knowing it is kind of the next lesson to move on to in those situations.
No, absolutely. I agree. It's,
I always learned when the first thing I always was told was don't laugh, don't laugh. And, I remember I helped out in the special education class one day, and we were with some students or something, and the teacher there was laughing at everything. Like the student would do something and the teacher would laugh and say, oh, let's do this. And it just kind of taught me, it's like, well, no, just be normal. Like if something's funny, laugh at it. And, it's not a thing of like, you're making fun of someone or you're laughing at someone. You're just like, these are funny situations. That with Barry and Bill, when something's happening, it's funny and you're playing along and everyone's just, living their lives. And that always stuck with me as a kid.
Yeah.
That teacher.
And you're showing you're relaxed.
Yeah.
Everyone can sense when you're not relaxed. All right. Where did we leave Bill? Bill is,
so he moves
living.
In with them.
Yes.
And then he gets a job, but they give him a job at the school. And this is where they kind of start showing where he is, he loves children. But the parents and teachers are a little worried about him. They don't understand. They don't think he's going to be safe with the children. They're not really sure how that plays out.
We see Mrs. McMeany, the teacher, who doesn't want Bill talking to the little girl who he's befriended.
Yeah.
Bill starts out, he's a handyman with the school. Another situation that's very quickly resolved because Mrs. McMeany, the teacher, wants to hold a meeting with all the parents saying why Bill shouldn't be allowed to help out at the school. And Dennis Quaid goes in and talks to her and he goes, hey, you know what? Actually, he's okay. And then she doesn't have the meeting anymore.
Yeah.
It turns her around.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of condensed milk in this movie.
And then the little girl he befriends goes into the hospital and he waits in the waiting room for her for 24 hours before finally being let in to go see her.
Does he have like a little like stuffed animal for her or something like that?
Does he give her a thing? I thought he just went in and prayed the Lord's Prayer over her. And then that was that.
That's what happens in the documentary. But I think I remember the stuffed animal in the movie.
The movie, he does have a stuffed animal? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he does the prayer in the movie, does he?
He does. He does the Lord's Prayer. Boy, yes. We'll get to this, but boy, when I found out the real version of that story, I was really mad that they changed it, actually.
Yeah, I know.
We're kind of like, I feel like the water isn't really boiling with us talking about this movie because it truly is languidly paced, and then people give you a lot of verbal information, and then it just kind of drifts down the river again. We wind up with Bill working at the college coffee shop, and he becomes a beloved fixture there. And Dennis Quaid gets a job in Hollywood. I guess his vague documentary is going to make it big. And he says, "Hey, Bill, we're going to move. Do you want to move with us?" And Bill says, "No, I'll stay here." And then that's the movie.
Right.
Right.
Credits roll.
Smile, credits roll.
I mean, this is. I like Bill. I like the story. I think he's owed everything he is given in his life. But also, it's like you're describing. I just kind of feel like, is this really the story that just had to be told? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
do you know what I mean? Like, I
do.
I like this. I like the story of him, and I think a book about him is interesting, and then just some newspaper articles. But it's like there's not so much happening that a 2-hour movie could be pulled from it. But I guess it just depends on the point of the film. And
well, I definitely have feelings about that. Should we get into
right.
Should we move into the documentary side of things? So first of all, this movie was huge. This movie was a huge hit for CBS. They made a sequel about it, which none of us have watched, right? Did you watch Bill on His Own?
I watched.
You did?
I watched the first half hour.
A completist. Okay.
Just as it when the YouTube clip ended, it went right into it, and
that's how they get you.
It's.
Yeah, 2 years
Those
later,
algorithms.
they made a follow-up movie called Bill on His Own. They retained all the rest of the cast, and they added Helen Hunt.
Well, I feel like they probably got Dennis Quaid right before he did Jaws 3D. Because I think from what it seems like, he's only in it for like a few minutes, I think.
That makes a lot more sense. Because he was in The Right Stuff in Jaws 3D that year. That was his big breakout year.
Yes. So I you get a little bit of him at the beginning, and it's like, oh, bye, Bill.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
Just like the title.
But I probably will finish the rest of it. But, at this time, I just didn't have enough time to watch it all.
This movie was a big movie, and regardless of any ways that I might feel, I guess it was a very big deal because it was the first movie like this to give a centralized role to somebody who is intellectually disabled and give them a triumphant ending. And it garnered a lot of attention for both the cause, but also for the real life Bill Sackter. He got invited to the White House. He started winning all these awards. When this won a Emmy for Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney was on Broadway, but he sent Bill in his place.
Yeah.
And there's an incredible footage from the documentary of Bill going on stage, and some producer at the award show said, "We don't want Bill playing his harmonica on stage because Hollywood is the worst." So Bill gave his harmonica to one of the other people, and then when he went on stage, he had hidden a smaller secret harmonica in his jacket, and he played that on stage. Thank God. Good for you, Bill. Make every one of those idiots listen to your harmonica.
See, that was a point about him, is that he was he always played, like, it just no matter what he did, he always went somewhere and he would play his harmonica for everyone.
Yeah. So there was a documentary.
So that's why the producer was for some reason the producer was.
Who cares?
No, it's
who cares? This guy wants to play harmonica.
That's what I mean. Like, this is his, and also it's like, that's like if you have Michael Winslow at the microphone. You don't.
He's gonna say. What would it be like?
Uzi.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to do the Uzi, Michael.
What if Led Zeppelin was playing a guitar right now? He'd say.
Exactly. And you don't stop Winslow. You don't take away the ocean spray from Bobby McFerrin.
And those are the kind of very current jokes, Mike, that give us a lot of youthful listeners.
It's a very timely show.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, there was a documentary produced about the real Bill Sackter. A very interesting part, learning about the production of the 1981 Bill movie, was they approached, I'm totally going to forget his name. What was the real, who was the guy who took care of Bill for a lot of the...
Barry Morrow.
The real Barry Morrow was a documentary filmmaker, and he had a ton of footage of Bill. And when he was approached about making a film about Bill, they said, hey, the way he phrases it seems a little delicate. He said, we're going to bypass the documentary and we want to make a Hollywood drama about it. I was like, that is a very nice way to put it. So in this documentary called A Friend Indeed, we meet the real Bill Sackter, who is the most charming man on the planet. Like when you see the real guy, you go, oh, of course everyone loved this guy the second they met him. He is the sweetest, funniest guy who just has such a natural charm about him. And the way he talks like a Minnesota rough guy, like, oh, hey there, how you doing? Okay, well, I'm gonna make the coffee. People like it. All right, amen. You know, just a grade A sweetheart. And I think a big issue I have with the way Mickey Rooney plays it is I feel like Mickey Rooney either saw footage or met somebody once who had Down syndrome and said, oh yeah, it's that.
That's what I was thinking too. The way he pushes his voice.
Yes, he is giving
he kind of strains his voice.
The most, if I can say it, the most like schoolyard level impersonation of a quote retarded person.
Yes,
in the way that grade schoolers will do, or the way that the simple Jack style of acting. Why?
I was wondering about that. Do you think that he was doing that, or was that Mickey Rooney's old man voice?
I think, Nathan, I don't know if that was a joke you were making. I think it is. I was 50% a choice and is 50% just Mickey Rooney being Mickey Rooney, because he has a very specific way about him. And when you add the fact that he is such a little guy and his eyes are so big, and when you have Mickey Rooney, I'm guessing you've just like put the camera 20 feet away from him and zoom in, or he'll break your lens, because Mickey Rooney is more a performer than an actor, I think. Like he knows how to give you a Mickey Rooney, the movies, Judy. But you don't call him to do a performance, really. He doesn't disappear into a role. But why would he do that when he has met the real life Bill and everyone's saying like, oh, this story of Bill is so amazing, but you don't give him any of the same attributes. And he's also, Mickey Rooney is playing it at a lower functionality level for sure. Don't you think? Because I felt like listening to the real Bill Sackter, I went, I don't know how long it would take me to realize that he had any developmental issues, because he just comes across as just like a basic guy. And then I'm sure when you get more into talking to him, or you realize like, he can't write his name, or he has a very limited, understanding of
well, if he says the Lord's Prayer in front of you. Which he did not. That's the thing. Like he does not know the words to the things that he's doing. He just knows the sounds. That's what the wife does.
Yeah.
He can mimic the sounds really well. So when he says the Lord's Prayer, it's funny because he's like, the words are jumbled around, but it matches the cadence.
So let me add, and Mike, I'll unfairly ask you this first. Do you think Mickey Rooney's performance, since he knows the real life guy, he's literally met the real life guy, do you think that is a decision they made to make him seem less functional to read bigger?
I kind of do wonder that, like, if they, well, one thought in my head is like, did Mickey Rooney make this choice and it was just the director probably maybe tried to differentiate it, but it's Mickey Rooney. Like, you can't really get Mickey Rooney to change how he was going to do it or something. I don't know. I mean,
Rooney's gonna Rooney.
right.
Yeah.
You know, and I was actually, well, one of the other things I was trying to YouTube is just see if Dennis Quaid ever gave any like interviews about Bill. I don't know. I found one clip where, well, it, you know, I can't really take it for certain, but it was like with Opie and Anthony or something where all the questions that they asked him were strictly about Bill. And like, you know, he kind of, you know, he gave some kind of like, you know, you sons of bitches or something like that, you know, why bring up that movie?
Okay.
But so I was trying to see if there was anything out there, you know, about Mickey Rooney's choices, but maybe just to make it play more, maybe if they were trying to hit a certain like emotional beat or something, you know, maybe they discuss like just embellishing a little bit.
Did you get I mean, I know you said he's Opie and Anthony, so I'm sure that they are just wanted to
get a rise out of him.
Yeah, right. Did
Very
he seem like
respectfully ask questions about this film.
There's Fresh Air, and then there's Opie and Anthony. Did it seem like, I know he knew he was being pushed around, but did it seem like he was embarrassed by this project?
Well, see, I couldn't find an actual clip of him, but it was just them talking to him about it. So unfortunately, I wish I was just trying, I don't know, maybe I should have dug deeper, go on Reddit or something.
You're a pretty terrible guest. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, he when he's on stage accepted the Emmy for
Rooney. Yeah.
Rooney. He seems pretty, excited about it. You know, he seemed pretty like respectful of the movie and Bill and all that stuff. And
well, sure. I mean, it was the same year, and he's a 27-year-old guy standing at a award ceremony. I'd be pretty respectful too.
Well, what I mean is, fuck this thing. No, I just mean
he's giving the Pelosi clap to Bill.
I don't think I don't think anyone's ashamed of this movie. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed about, you know.
No, I just didn't know, judging by his response. So he was just reacting to them. It was nothing in light of.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nothing like being embarrassed by being in the movie or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it seemed like he was just like, guys, come on, let's not do this kind of thing.
Yes,
like,
right.
You know, like with a smirk, with the patent Dennis Quaid smirk,
the patented waggle.
Yeah.
No, I did ask my.
Yeah.
You know, I reached out to my parents, you know, in preparation for this, you know, like, do they remember seeing it? And
okay, he is
emphatically. They're like, yeah, I do remember watching.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, even my pal Robert Banks, you know, I just talked with him the other day, and I was like, "Do you ever see the movie Bill?" And he's like, "With Mickey Rooney?" Yeah, of course I saw Bill. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like something that, yeah, I don't know why I never heard about it until just this week.
It is a magic that we talk about a lot on this show, which is when there was 3-4 channels, everyone watched the same thing. I just saw an inflatable chair that was in the shape of the Fall Guy for children, because that was what was on TV. So yeah, a little kid's gonna watch the Fall Guy. That's like having a chair of The Mentalist. Like, there's no reason a child would normally watch this thing. It was just on, so you had to see it. So yeah, everyone had a mandatory. The president called you, and you had to watch Bill. Carter would call you.
If they we were going on about, we were talking about his voice. That's right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Do you think? How did they get to Rooney in this role?
How did they cast him?
Yes. How do they, like, who's there and goes, I got it. You know what I mean? Like
who reads
is this
intelligently disabled? Is that what you're saying?
Like who does, or did he like audition for it? Did get it that it's you know what I mean. Like, how does he get to this movie? How does Mickey Rooney get to this movie?
Well, I mean, not to be too basic about it, he was probably affordable. Mickey Rooney notoriously was broke his entire life. He had a serious gambling addiction, which led him just penniless.
Yeah.
So I think you could hire him for anything. And he was an older star, and it was a TV movie. So your grandma would know who Mickey Rooney was, and you'd know who Mickey Rooney was. Was Black Stallion around this? I think Black Stallion had come out like a year or two before, so maybe he had a little bit of heat on him still from that. That was a pretty prestigious movie.
Well, and I think at the time, where now like we live in this era where TV is so like paramount, you know, it's like the goal, you know,
not in 1983,
right? Well, they say it's like the golden age right now, where back then being in a TV movie was almost seen like almost a negative thing, slightly like just a paycheck.
You were on hard times if you were doing a TV movie. Yes,
yeah. So maybe for him it was a win-win.
That's very true. And I don't know. Does he do a bad job in this? I think he's doing what you hire Mickey Rooney to do.
Yeah.
And I think otherwise it's on the director. What I think is my two main concerns about something like Bill, first of all, is I don't know why they changed his character so much when it is a real living person who has a very dramatic story. Mm-hmm. The story about the little girl in the hospital, which I assumed was fabricated. It was
the dude's daughter.
Barry Morrow's daughter. Why did they change it? Like, that's more, did it seem too unbelievable? Because the true story is Barry Morrow's daughter got incredibly ill as a small child, went to the hospital. Bill found out, was heartbroken. And
kid was in a coma.
Yeah, and the Barry Morrow is describing the scene where Bill goes in, takes the wig off his head, and starts praying for this little girl, leaves the room, and when he left the room, the little girl woke up from a coma. Is that too much?
He goes to the elevator.
Yeah.
And then he says, he says something to him like, I think my prayer fixed her or something. And then the door closes, and instantly he hears screaming in the room, like something's happening. He runs back, and the daughter's awake.
Yeah.
Wow.
Incredible story. Incredible story. Why do they make these weird changes? And people, I'm sure there are people who got fed up with the real life Bill. People are frustrating. People are human. I'm sure he could be a little much sometimes. And, these documentaries, I should also say this documentary is not the best made thing I've ever seen in my life. It's just that he was such a compelling person. I think it's worth checking out because normally these kind of documentaries either put angel wings or demon horns on people. And this is definitely an angel winger. But everybody in the Bill movie is so mean and aggressive to Bill. I got the impression that people weren't aggressively against the guy. If anything, they were probably just careless towards him because he seemed too together.
Yeah.
But I guess that's too subtle of a message for this movie, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like because maybe they knew it was coming out in Christmas time. I don't know. Maybe they just think like, okay, we really got to hit the, I don't know. It is perplexing because that seems to me like that scene, that would be like the capper, like the perfect capper or something.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And I think the other issue, and it's my issue with every kind of movie like this for the most part, is Bill is enough to make you care about him and to make you think about people who are different than you in a much more compassionate light. These movies tend to make it about the people who are in contact with Bill or what we're focusing on. And Bill really doesn't have any goals or agency. He is just this angelic little magical potato man who changes your life. Like, how is Bill going to make me a better person? He changed me just as much. It's a very, I don't know, it's such a self-serving way of thinking about things, and it makes people go into situations with talking to people being like, what am I going to get out of this? I don't know. Maybe it seems condescending. It makes it seem like they're less people and more these magical lesson teachers.
Do you think that if it would come out, say if this movie was coming out just now, I mean, it would probably be crucified. Right?
If this same movie came out?
Yeah. Say if it didn't come out in 81, but it came out like 2021.
I think people would call the Rooney performance way too much. Everything else, it's your typical TV movie sort of narrative. I think the performance would change. And I guess that kind of leads to the other big question is it bad taste? I'm trying to think of a word other than evil. That's not what I mean to say. To cast a person in these roles and have them play a disability.
That's what I was thinking. Like, is it even okay to do this anymore?
Yeah, I feel like they would. I mean, because say like a couple months ago, what that movie Prom, and James Corden played one of the roles who he was playing a gay character, where they said, "Oh, you could have easily cast a gay character to play that, or a gay person to play that." So yeah, I bet it probably would have been torn up to shreds now if it came out, but they would probably would have cast somebody who was intellectually disabled in that part. But is that, I don't know, that could be a more lengthy time period to film, because sometimes, maybe, depending on the day, if they're having difficulties with them or something.
Right. Like, is it that's my question. Is it situational based on the needs, or is it something that is a hard and fast rule? Because I mean, you think about something like Leonardo DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Right.
That was the first thing I ever saw him in. I didn't know that he was acting. Because he does in my perspective, he does a very good job.
Yeah.
And from what I've read online, people actually responded well to it. So is a big chunk of it just how you're writing the character? And is a character like Bill to hinge a movie completely and also be playing a real character, is that too much to put on an actor?
No,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I cut you off. I'm sorry.
When he's watching they talk about when he went to go see the movie, it premiered in his town. In the movie, the character
you're talking about the real life Bill went to see the Mickey Rooney Bill. Yes,
and Mickey Rooney's Bill gets off at the wrong bus stop, and Bill, the real Bill, leans over to his neighbor in the seat and says, "Oh, it's okay. I do that too sometimes." Like the guy, and the way the guy read it as is like he's not really connecting that he's actually playing him in this role.
Right.
Or whatever.
There was a disconnect there.
But I don't know if I buy that fully, but I think he was just let's see, I feel like Bill's way more aware than maybe that guy's giving him credit. Like, I feel like Bill may have even been trying to be funny. I don't know. The way I feel like a lot of stuff that Bill says, like it makes you feel like, oh, this is really cute, all the kind of stuff he says. But like, I don't know. I think at some point,
you talking real Bill or Rooney Bill?
Real Bill.
Okay.
I think at some point he knows that what he says is funny, to some extent,
I think how people are probably going to respond to you, because it also said that he would do things like just kind of parrot back whatever a doctor would say to him, because he was a people pleaser. Yeah. Probably because he was in a mental institution for 44 years where people were horrible to him. Yeah. So I think that there is that kind of just learned behavior of giving people what will get a smile out of them or a good response. Yeah. There was a very... keep going.
I was just going to say he has... The real Bill is not like the Mickey Rooney in that he has all kinds of styles and looks. he has a couple
looked
different
great.
wigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has these great hats. Like some days he looks like, an old like communist, like Russian, like like a guy who just got out from the potato fields. And then I think my favorite look is probably the Dr. Demento.
The top hat.
Big bushy beard and a top hat, and he looks like he's about to introduce a new Spike Milligan record or something.
So, in taking with what you're saying, what you were saying, Nate, like you think he was more aware. This was very interesting that I read on Wikipedia. He was diagnosed as intellectually disabled, although diagnosis performed decades later would prove his intelligence was near normal.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So what I'm saying, he's a fraud. No. Sorry, Mike. This is a gotcha podcast. I'm here to take down Bill Sackter. No, I don't know. I mean, again, this was a person who, after age 7, was cast out by society, living inside an institution for 44 years. So, of course, you're going to have a lot of stunts to your development. But in terms of, especially if in light of that, which they didn't know at the time, but in light of that, Mickey Rooney's performance is even more off the mark to me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it kind of just goes with what you're saying. This was a guy who had a very traumatic life, made the best of it, had a great attitude. So he was more coherent than maybe people even realized, or even he realized, but he could only perform up to a certain extent. Like there was maybe just like a glass ceiling for him that he was hitting up against.
Yeah,
maybe
that's.
I'm a doctor. I should actually really look into this.
That's an interesting idea. I thought that if his intelligence was basically near normal, would he be the same Bill today?
If he had
had he not gone into the institution, just had like how we had today, like just the normal, how they put you in the least amount of restriction in school to make it as quote unquote normal as possible. And he would have just been this average guy.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't have deserved any awards.
Yeah, he would have been a nobody. Mickey Rooney goes on to play somebody else. Somebody more deserving.
Someone with more action in his story.
Did Mickey Rooney after this, like, and I don't know, like, did he?
Where is he now?
Was it
the ground?
Was it there a resurgence?
Whatever happened to that old Mickey?
Was there some kind of resurgence after this? I don't even, like, I can't even really think.
Mickey
of that,
Rooney, he kind of continues to work. I mean, he's in plenty more stuff after this, but let's see. I mean, so he, I'll call out a couple. Let me look up a couple.
Probably a lot of TV movies,
golden nuggets here. So he is in a TV series in '97 called Cleo the Misfit Unicorn as Talbot. He is in an episode of ER as Dr. George Bickle.
Wait, Bickle?
Bickle. He's in an episode of Chicken Soup for the Soul as Old Man. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of roles like that.
So this was like almost his grand hurrah or something.
I don't know. And I mean, he does small roles. I mean, he's famously in Babe Pig in the City as the most disturbing clown of all time. Mr. Ferkel, I believe his name is. Have you seen Babe Pig in the City, Nate? Truly demented movie.
Very
yeah,
dark.
Really?
I have not watched it since I first saw it because it was so different from the original Babe, but I'll give it a second go. But Mickey Rooney plays a clown. Imagine this is Mickey Rooney 20 years after Bill with clown makeup on, and he is eating, I think, a jelly donut, and the jelly is just dripping all over his face, something like that. It's a real image that gets in.
Do you
your
think
brain.
that they actually cast him for that, or someone passed him by on the street and just got that on footage? And they're like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah. So, I mean, I think his career could have bounced back real hard. I don't know how much of a difference it would have made. He was bad at finances. So the last thing in his legacy on Wikipedia is that he died with owing $18,000, and they solicited contributions after his death to pay it off.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Damn.
So you're saying that in his death, he was struggling to find grants?
He gamed the system in a way that I would like to game the system in my death, which is owing a lot of people money I never have to pay back.
That is the way to go.
Brother, you're telling me.
Couldn't they have hawked his
You're
Emmy or
halfway
something?
there.
Speaking of ways to make money off of entertainment, Mike, I'm going to let you promote your new project, which is a documentary you're in the process of making.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm.
This podcast is over, by the way.
Oh, okay.
I realized I just got to say, wait, do we have more to say about Bill before you hawk your life? Like,
I mean, Bill was. I'm glad that it was introduced to me. You know, I mean, it's something like I grew up in that era, but didn't see a lot of those TV movies. So I think it's fascinating just to see and to know that it was such a huge ratings hit and all that stuff. Like I often find myself in these YouTube rabbit holes of watching like vintage HBO promos from the 80s. I don't know. I'm just very fascinated.
We know nothing
by all
about that.
things.
You're a sick man.
I don't know. I'm very fascinated by all facets of 80s television landscape before cable became, what it is, and now obviously streaming. But yeah, no, I'm eternally grateful to be on the show. So.
We're happy to have you.
Yes.
I'm glad to know about the guy. This isn't the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life, but I get, you know what? It introduced me to the real guy, and I'm happier to know about him and his life. So I guess it's a good movie.
I watched it with my wife and daughter, and a lot of times I'll try and take notes when I watch these things, and this is one of the ones where I just kind of shut the computer off and just watched, because as for all its faults, it was interesting, and it's especially, of course, knowing that there's a real guy that all this stuff happened to. And my daughter's review, it was boring.
I agree with her. I actually do think this movie is also boring.
Yeah.
That was my astute observation as well.
For as much meat, that is the biggest tragedy of this film, and you can say whatever you want about his performance or the pacing or whatever. That is the biggest tragedy, is that with such a fascinating person who they had to base this movie on, it is a boring movie, and it shouldn't be. Go watch the documentary, everyone. It's like I said, it's not the most perfectly crafted thing, but it's worth an hour and a half of your time. It's free on YouTube. It's about a great guy, so go out and watch that.
Do you think that like the way we watched it was just, we watched it normally, but do you think that Stoney would recommend a way to watch this movie?
I don't love how this is becoming a bit. You see, there's a certain character who sometimes shows up on this program. His name is Stoney. He loves some kind bud. Let me hold on. May we speak to Stoney? Is this here in the actor's studio? Let me tell you, hey Nate, there's one kind of bill I like. It's the legalization bill.
Nice. I knew you'd deliver. I knew you'd freaking deliver, Stoney.
All right. Well, now that we've horrified our guest, is there anything, like, we're so happy you've joined us. Is there anything that you'd like to promote that people should go out and see?
Sure. Well, clevelandfilm.com. We have, there's a lot of things to check out there. You can learn more about some of the things that are happening here in the area. And then eventually at the end of the year, finally, after 4 years, I will have a documentary done about local filmmaker Robert Banks called We'll Talk About That Later. And I'm very excited about it. Hopefully right now we're securing a lot of the music rights. So just secured some stuff from Living Color and some certain
Fire
bands.
Marshal Bill?
Well, cult of personality. But yeah. Stuff that Fire Marshal. Oh, duh.
Now you see how funny I'm being.
Yes. Sorry.
We don't play that.
Sorry. Can I do a redo of that? Because but anyway.
No, your reaction was right. It's much like my parents now, where they kind of just float whatever I said by and casually
God.
dismiss it.
No, but
I
damn
can't
it.
imagine
No,
the amount of yes anding that happens at your house, at your parents' house, Zachariah.
But yeah, hopefully that will be done at the end of the year. Then hopefully playing festivals the following year.
Do you have a soft month that this might be coming out?
My hope would be, we're probably, I want to do like a pre-screen, like a in-person pre-screening probably in the month of December as well.
All right. So it's a hard and firm release date, December. It was lucky for Bill. It's going to be lucky for you.
Yes.
Mike, thank you for joining us here on Network Special.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Everyone out there, have a wonderful rest of your week. Remember, I love you. Nate, you need your signature sign off?
Bye.
Jeremy, you got that?
Oh, we got it, Daddy-O.
All right. Cut and print.